Welcome back, Top Fivers, to another exciting installment of the best show on the internet that has no production value whatsoever. As always, joined my beautiful co-host Shauna Sneeden. Shauna, welcome. How are you?
I am well. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, today we are talking. Go ahead.
How are you?
Oh, it's fall, so this is the second morning that I've had to put on my slippers. So I
Okay.
like it. It's nice. The weather's beautiful, but yes, definitely the seasons are turning. So
Well, lucky you, because it is not fall in Oklahoma.
yeah, I got down, I think 52 last night or something like that. So, anyways, today's episode we are talking about top 5 concerts of all times. Live music for both Shannon and I is very important. Connecting with the artists in a personal way, and even though I got to be honest, live recordings aren't always my favorite. That feeling of being with the artist in their world with their influence is a powerful thing, and that is a tremendous amount of fun.
Yeah.
So um without going in right into the top 5, Shauna, what was your first concert?
Well, my very first exposure to the concert experience was at Lagoon Amusement Park in Utah.
Mm.
And it was a retro tour for Gary Puckett and the Union Gap Band, Grassroots, Herman's Hermits, and the headliner was the Monkees,
Oh, wow.
and it was fantastic. I loved it, and I kind of got the bug for live music after that because it was really amazing.
Well,
And
everybody loves the Monkees.
oh, they're fantastic. They were. We only have Mickey left. Mickey
Right.
Dolenz is the only one left.
Yes, and that's crazy to think about too. I mean, it's like anything else within life. Our little view into that world is only through pictures or videos or photographs or whatever. TV's classic in my mind. The cast of Friends is still in their 20s and 30s.
Oh,
Now
yeah,
you
certainly.
see them now, you're like, who the heck are those old people? So to speak. And it's the
Yeah,
same with those artists like the Monkees and such as that. It's hard to imagine them they're in their 70s and 80s or were. That
yeah,
time has passed. How
yeah.
easily we forget that.
My
So, well,
my,
that's
my very
awesome.
my very next show after that was Robert Plant.
Wow, that's a big step forward.
Yeah, and so and that was like my first like rock show, and it was incredible. I will never forget it. It was November 18th, 1988.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I think so. Here I say I'll never forget it, but yeah, it was November 18th, 1988, and
Wow.
um, it was originally slated for October, but the boys in the band were backstage kicking a little soccer ball around, and the drummer went to kick the ball and lost his footing, fell back and twisted his wrist. So he could not play. So they had to come
Wow.
back. They had to come back a month later.
Now that wasn't the Now and Zen tour. Which tour was that? Was that
Um,
Now and Zen?
let's see. No, Now and Zen was
That was like 86, right?
that no, that was 90. Oh no, it was Now and Zen.
Okay.
Yeah, because in 93 it was Fate of Nations. And I saw that one too.
Of course you did. Shauna she loves her concerts. I haven't seen, I've seen enough shows that I feel happy. There's some bands. Okay, here's another great question. Um, Not counting those who may have been passed away or deceased before we had a chance to go to concerts, but who's somebody that you would call contemporary that you just never saw that you really wish you had seen?
Uh ZZ Top.
Really?
Yeah, I never got to see them.
I would love to see ZZ Top. That'd be fun. Especially in their heyday. That
Yeah.
would have been a hoot.
And
Just
another one is Aerosmith.
ooh, now see,
This
I
is
did have the pleasure of seeing that one.
this is their last tour. It's called Peace Out. Um, they're coming here on November the 4th in Tulsa, and I'm heavily I think I'm gonna go. I'll probably just go by myself though.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, it's funny of all because I haven't seen hundreds of concerts. I've only seen a few dozen. And Aerosmith with the Black Crowes on their first tour with I think it was the Pump tour. Um,
Well,
happened to catch
that's who they're coming back with.
they're coming back with them too. And
Yeah.
the funny thing about the Black Crowes in that tour, the my friends that I did go with, I could not remember who the opening band was, and I loved Black Crowes at the time because they just come out there with their first album, which was phenomenal. I love that
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
Um, but they were the opening band, and they were for me that unimpressive as an opening band that I did not even remember that they were the opening band.
Oh wow.
So that was a
Well,
little surprising to me.
they've certainly improved because I did see the Black Crows last summer and they were incredible.
That's awesome.
So
That's
good.
good. That's good to hear.
So good.
So, well, so if the one band that I did not see, particularly from my youth, that I wish I could have seen or had seen, would have been Rat. I didn't see Rat
Oh
live,
yeah.
and I just because everybody talked about what an in your face show it was and how loud it was. That's right up my alley. Plus, they were my favorite band in high school. For the most
Yeah.
part. So, but I never saw them. Never saw Dawkins, which I would they opened for more than they did headline, but I would love to have seen them as well. I never saw them.
Yeah. That would have been good.
It would have been fun.
Two.
So,
Two sound good.
What's that?
Both of those sound good.
They would be amazing, and as we talk about time slipping past, these either the bands break up or by now people have passed away or they whatever rock and roll reasons, so it's just not the same. You still catch Stephen Percy in concert, but it's not,
Sure.
and he sounds like Rat, but it's not Rat,
Right. For
for
sure.
example. So
Yeah.
so I would have loved to seen that. I would have loved to have seen um I would love to see him Plant. That was the interesting thing about concerts, and back in the day, to go to a concert in 1987, 1988 would have cost you 25-30 bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even know how much this. Oh wait. This show was like $18.
Wow, wow,
That's insanity.
it
Because
is.
to
It
see
is.
Robert Plant now would be hundreds.
Yeah, yeah. It's and the funny thing is, I one of my favorite bands that I've seen live is Def Leppard. One of my favorite bands of all time, anyways. Easily number two, if not actually overall number one for me. But they did a tour. This had to be 2 years ago now, where they went through San Diego, and their concert was at Petco Park, where the Padres play.
Yeah.
And the front rows of the section, and down on the floor, you'd call it back in the day. Those front rows were $1,500 to $3,000 per
Yeah.
ticket.
Yeah.
To be down there, and particularly in that area and with that community, because those are going to corporate situations. A company will buy, Qualcomm would buy a row of seats or whatever like that, or
Yeah.
for their bigwigs and whatever, and that's and the artists complain about it all the time,
Yeah.
but they, in some particular cases, they are also the problems.
Tom Petty did away with that. What
No,
they call the golden circle. He did away with that at his shows.
and that's why they killed him. Just kidding. I like to be conspiracy theorist. Poor Tom. We all miss him too. Would have loved to seen him in concert too in his peak. You
He's
know, I never
so
saw
he was so amazing.
it.
He was so amazing. So in fact, he's on my top 5. And I kind of, when we were kind of talking about this and how we wanted to approach the subject, I was thinking about how I wanted to break it down, because then because I have this ability to talk about my favorite, but it's really hard to whittle down my favorite, because I've
Sure.
seen everyone from Paul McCartney, the Stones, the Who, Bruce Springsteen, U2. So I approached it a little differently. And how I approached it was I singled out the concerts that, even though we may have been in a big arena or even a small venue, um, the top 5 artists I felt that, no matter how big the arena was, made the show feel very intimate.
Mhm.
And that's how I broke that down.
That's interesting view take on it, because actually that's kind of the way I looked at it too. Um, my honorable mention on this top 5 people who just missed making the cut, so to speak, was the Temptations. I saw the Temptations about 5 years ago on a tour they did through Central Oregon, and not my era of music, not
We
my
we cut out there for a minute. Did you see that?
ah, I said not my era of music. You know, the Temptations, they were before
Uh,
my time, and they're, I mean, I like the old music from the 50s and the 60s, the
yeah,
malt shop type sound. I love that stuff,
yeah,
but it's not something I was sought out, particularly as a teenager. But as an adult, they came back through, and my mother-in-law, who was with us at the time, really wanted to go see the Temptations, and so we went to go down and see them. And once again, it's the power of music and the power of an artist. There's only one original member
yeah,
in that was still in the lineup, and he wasn't technically an original member. He had been brought in with most of the original band back in the day, so that he was still the kind of that tie-in. But
yeah,
to see the older generation in the crowd get caught up in the music of their youth was
yeah,
amazing. They were in absolute heaven, and it was a great show. Musically, it was fantastic. And My Girl, for example, what a great
yeah,
song. Everybody knows that song, so
yeah.
you got to get behind it when they're singing and such as that. And it was just very, very cool. But
That's
yeah, things like it, just to see the magic of music, and that's what I think is what it boils down to. It is the magic of music, the sound that captures our imagination and paints a picture for us, and things like that. To see it performed by the artist, even though it's not your favorite recorded version, it comes off sometimes that there's a flaws or warts or hiccups or whatever. To see it though is pretty amazing.
that's awesome. That's
Was
awesome.
there ever a concert that you saw that you were like, oh, this sucks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. 2 people, and their recent shows. They were the opening band for, the headliner. The first one, ugh. He opened up for the Fix here in
Mm.
Oklahoma City last year, September 3rd, and it was Royce Langdon. Awful, awful. His lyrics were so gross and so, I mean, and he couldn't decide which key he was in, so it was bad. And then the next time I saw somebody really, really horrible was this year. He opened for the Psychedelic Furs, and it was Evan Dando for, he was a former lead singer of the Lemonheads. And oh, I mean, I've never witnessed during a live show. I mean, I've seen people in the audience have their existential meltdowns, but he had one on stage in front of everybody. And I don't know what he took prior to the show, but about halfway in, it kicked in. And it was shocking. I've never seen an artist jump off of the stage, exit stage right, and never come back. It was horrible. I could not understand what he was singing. Um, I know he was trying to launch into that big hit of theirs, um, something about Stan, but it was awful. I couldn't. It was unrecognizable. It was.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's
Have
not
you?
good.
How have you?
You know, I haven't, sans the Black Crowes forgetfulness and for not even remembering that they were the band. I haven't had a bad experience, um, at a concert. You know, there are. I mean, who was it? Somebody came through Oklahoma City that I saw. It was, I think it was Poison, and I'm not sure that is correct, but
We
there was
saw
an open
yeah.
band. I'm sorry.
You and I saw that show together.
Well, I've seen 2 Poison concerts,
Well,
and I
Tesla
can't
opened
remember.
up Poison when you and I saw them.
Yes, and that was a great one.
That
I
was a
love that one. Um, and I think another honorable mention to Tesla because I've seen them like more than any other band because they always opened for for whoever you're going to go see.
yeah, yeah,
and, and a band that obviously they've got their recognition and such. Maybe still even a little unheralded, but boy, they're still out touring. They still sound great, you
yeah,
know. And and they they had their moment of in the spotlight for sure. But they seem like they opened for everybody there for about 4 years. But it was just a small con. So it's when they usually bring in a local band. The few times I've seen that, you know, I could care less. You
right.
know, it's not in there. For sometimes you hear something like, "Oh, that's pretty good," but unless they end up making it big later, you forget them. It just what it doesn't. You know,
Yeah,
thanks for filling a spot. You just whatever. You know,
yeah,
so I honestly can say I really haven't had any bad experiences at a concert, which I'm glad because I mean back in the day, $25-$30 a concert sounds so cheap nowadays, but
I
back then
know.
it was still 8, 9, 10 hours of working to pay for that ticket, you know,
Yeah,
whatever like that. Plus getting your hands on it because you couldn't go down to your local ticket master to get one. You had to drive into Oklahoma City, get in line, spend the night or whatever to actually
yeah,
hopefully get a ticket or send somebody else up there and not know if you're going to get a ticket or not.
right.
So, anyways, yeah. So yeah. So um, yeah. So I mean, I've been with a variety of friends. I've been to a variety of shows, and all of them always come down to uh, a love of music. That's what it has to boil down to that, you know, because
Yeah,
you'll see people go to concerts and you know they're just there because it's the cool place to be at the moment. They care nothing about the actual movie. Yeah, the music. You were talking about somebody having a conversation on one of the shows you were just at that
yes.
was ruining the experience because they're just having a conversation next to you.
And in order to have this conversation, they have because it's a concert, they have to do it at the top of their lungs.
Right.
This was at Matchbox 20 this summer. I had waited 3 years. I held on to those tickets for 3 years to see this band because of COVID. And then the
Right.
next year, they did it, and then something happened. Oh, it was COVID again. And then the next year they were in the studio. And now this year they had, finally decided to be here. And this group of people behind me, having their conversation about the office or the neighbors down the street or whatever was so much more important to them. And it was very disappointing.
Well, it's so easy. It's so easy to ruin that experience for somebody, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I love to go to concerts is because the sense of community when you're there. I mean, hopefully we're all there to listen to the band and enjoy their music and just really kind of develop that syncing up with the band, but we're all doing that syncing up together as a
Right.
collective. It's really cool and it's wonderful, and I cannot stand it when somebody blows it. It's like, when I went to go see the Eagles on their Hell Freezes Over tour. Yeah, that was the first time I had spent that kind of money on that tour. And this was in 1995, and I spent triple digits on that ticket, and that was unheard of.
Right.
And I was still in the nosebleeds. But oh my gosh, what a concert. It was amazing.
It
Uh,
was.
but there's this woman 3 rows up. Can you even believe what she said to me? Oh my God. I don't even know what I'm going to do when I go to the I have to look at her face. And I'm like,
It's
why
the Eagles.
why? You are witnessing these legends on the stage that vowed they would never, ever, ever get back together, only
Right.
until hell froze over. There they were. Hell is freezing over. And you are yammering through the whole thing. Are you serious?
Yeah. 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 That's really seriously annoying.
Oh, and for that kind of money, for 1995 money, that was a lot of damn money. But and as soon as I was able to kind of tune her out, I just absolutely loved that show. And in fact, when I was considering this topic, um, initially I was going to put the Eagles on my top 5 because it was just phenomenal. I mean, we got like 5 concerts in one. I mean, Don Henley sang some of his solo things. Joe Walsh sang some of the James Gang things. Um, and then Glenn Fry sang some of his solo things. And then we had the Eagles stuff. And it was just, all this mishmash of all this incredible music for 2.5 hours. It was so good.
That's amazing. Yes, I have seen that show, but on TV, recording the after the fact,
Yeah.
not live.
The video, it doesn't compare. It doesn't
Yeah.
compare. Sorry. I mean, and I love concerts and I love concert footage. Um, the Who did something really interesting with their tour in 2008. What they were doing was that they, in each city, they would make a video recording of that particular show, and then a few weeks later you had the opportunity to buy that DVD. And you can sure bet that was my first time of seeing the Who, and I bought that DVD, and I have loved that because it does take me right back to that night. And that sound when Pete goes and you get it, yeah.
Yeah, I like Who singles. I'm not the biggest fan of the Who, but there are s- certain things. I would have loved to have been on the stage, 1968 opening of the Led Zeppelin 3 tour. Would have loved to have been on to see those guys in
Yeah,
their heyday.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
same with the Who. The energy that Daltrey would have put out there and all that stuff would have been
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. So speaking of bands that I would have loved to have gone back in time to see, Led Zeppelin, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
And Robert Plant, and he does his solo things, and but he also does some Led Zeppelin songs, and oh my gosh, what a voice.
Oh, absolutely. They were just talking about it. Somebody saw it online, well, on the radio yesterday. Um, one of the serious DJs, and he's talking about how David Lee Roth is hands down in his consideration the best frontman ever. And I understand that point of view, but it depends if how you define it, right? If it's there for just slapstick entertainment, yeah, Roth is probably the king. But as far as presence, sound, style, persona, you know, the whole package, Robert Plant has to be the guy.
He's up there for sure, and I have to say that Mick Jagger is as well.
Oh yeah, can't forget Jagger.
He is a force of nature on stage. There, I
Well,
mean,
his attitude.
well, and its attitude and his ability to draw in that audience. He's talking to them and he's telling little stories and he's, moving and pointing his fingers, and he's he's so. I mean, the very first time I saw the Rolling Stones, was October 27th, 1997, and we were outside. It was at the football stadium in Norman. It was so cold. I did not feel that cold. So if you talk to my ex-husband, he will say, "Oh my God, I remember that show. It was so cold." I only remember it was cold because he reminds me that it was cold. I don't think that concert and think, "Oh, dang, it was cold." It was amazing. And so but prior to that, I was a passive Rolling Stones fan. I was like, "Oh, okay, well, this is a good song on the radio." you know, but after seeing them live, that was all over. It was all over. I I dove headlong into the Rolling Stones library. I had to listen to everything they put out, bought everything they put out. It was all over after
That's funny.
watching them live.
That's funny. That's something else. Is well, I just occurred to me. You're talking about that. Um, to hear their sound diving back into a catalog. I had the same experience with Neil Diamond. That's a regret. I wish I could have seen Neil on in even just 10 years ago. I wish I could have seen him live.
Yeah.
I never did. But when I discovered Neil Diamond as an adult, man, I dove back into what stuff
Yeah.
that he done it. And mind you, this is back in an era where 8 songs every 8 months was an album.
Yeah.
Not all of his stuff is phenomenal, but
Right.
there is so much there that is just fantastic, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so, uh, yeah, that is a regret. I wish I had opportunities to see him, just didn't
Yeah, me too. My
haven't
sister
worked
did.
out.
My sister Steph saw him, and she talks about it still to this day. She has concerts as I have, but I mean, she's seen people like Pink, and she still
Mm.
talks about Diamond.
That's something I haven't experienced it. I don't care to, but you talk to people now who've gone to Taylor Swift, and
Right.
I'm talking about adults
Yeah,
also, and it's the best thing they've ever seen ever in their life,
I
you
know.
know?
And
And
I haven't experienced that either. And did you hear about her concert in Seattle? That they
not that I know of.
the stadium was vibrating so much between the crowd and the music and all of that, it registered on the Richter scale.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I guess at some point I should go be in. I mean,
Yeah, see, I think to go see her, I think her because they went down to Salt Lake to go see her this few months ago. I think it was $150 a ticket,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, it could be an amazing show. I'm a little bit of a tightwad, but it could be an amazing show. I don't know that I'm forking over that
I
to see
know.
somebody. If my daughters are still 12, 13, 14 years old, yeah, we're going, but they're not, thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
Somehow I managed to dodge 98 Degrees in sync and the Backstreet Boys too back in the day when they were that age. So that's that was
Yeah,
okay too.
I didn't get to dodge the Jonas Brothers. I had to take my daughter, and I did not get to dodge Hannah Montana either. I got to go see her and Jessica Simpson.
Gotcha.
That was very important to my daughter back in the day.
Who is that? Oh, the Hansons. They're from Oklahoma, right?
Yeah,
Did you catch them too?
no, they, they weren't doing their thing when Sabrina was into the Jonas Brothers and stuff. They were kind of prior to the Jonas Brothers.
Sure. So, okay, what is the most fun you've ever had at a concert? I'm just sheer joy of being at the show, not even necessarily the artist performing, but just the sheer joy.
David Byrne.
Okay.
So it was just kind of a happenstance thing. I was headed to New York anyway to go see my friend Lane, and
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember you told me this.
I had Billy Joel concert tickets, and that was a lot of fun. But then I was thinking, well, what are we going to do? I mean, I don't know what I was doing, but I saw that David Byrne and his American Utopia tour was on Broadway. And I looked up the price of the tickets and they were like $50. And I'm like, I cannot pass that up. So I called up Lane and I go, dude, what would you think about going to see David Byrne? And he goes, oh, are you kidding me? We cannot pass that up. So it was an incredible experience. And he is on my top 5 because not just the show itself and its production value, because he had 11 members in his band that none of them, not one single member, was plugged in. He had, the wireless bass, wireless guitar wandering, or not wandering, but they were all dancing and in sync. They had these little routines that they were doing. Then they were constantly in motion this whole concert. I mean, imagine having to play this music, sing the songs, remember the choreography on top of it. And not only was the production of it incredible and the music was incredible, but the crowd was all in. 100% of every person was freaking out and losing their shiz because this was so amazing. And everyone singing and just, throwing their hands in the air. I mean, just everybody was losing it. It was so fun. So fun.
That's fun. That's awesome.
How about you?
When I was still fairly young, father, this had to be late 90s. My son Anthony, my oldest, was probably 16 years old, 15 I think he was, and we went to, well, I wanted to do this. He was having kind of a rough patch, bad influences, doing fine, but I wanted to find a way to do something with just him. So Bad Religion was coming through the area, and I knew he liked Bad Religion, so I got some concert tickets for that. And they were playing in a small auditorium. It was probably hold 4,000, 5,000 people. It was a pretty good size, big open floor section with the band up on stage right in front of you, which was really pretty cool. And it was all general admission, so you walked in or whatever. And I had never been to a Bad Religion show, or anything in that subset of music I just hadn't been to before. And honestly, I hadn't been to a concert previous to that till I was 18, 19, 20 years old. So there's a generational gap there in what concerts had become in certain genres. And so I'm there, we're standing towards the back of the crowd, and all of a sudden we're getting pushed back because the mosh pits open up. And so this was something I'd heard about and whatever like that, but I had never experienced. And so that was amazing to watch these kids bouncing around, bouncing off each other, and going nuts with the music. And so I made where I'm at a concert. If I'm going to be at a concert, I want to be up towards the front. So I tried to get him to follow me. He did not, but I pushed my way through the front to get up there. And the mosh pits form, and then they go away, and then they form and go away. And I found myself in the wall of a pit that opens up, in a big one that had to be 5 or 6 kids bouncing around inside this thing. And what the joy I discovered is that these kids come bouncing around and they want you to hit them as hard as you can. And so You're obviously not punching them, but when they come around to you, I gotta shove these little kids, bounce them off the concrete, watch them stand up, and go yeah, and come around again for me to do it. And that was so much fun.
I'll bet. Yeah.
The music was a good concert. I didn't really know any bad religious stuff, and but I would by the time the show's over, because it's oppressive flesh, to get the in this mix, and I'm soaking wet, sweat. But that was a lot of fun. That was very much therapeutic.
Cathartic. No
Yes, very much so.
kids
Very
around.
much so. All the frustrations of being a parent to get a ticket out of somebody else's kid. So, all right. So let's get into our top fives. I'll start if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
For me, number five would be this. This is a tough one for me. Number five for me would be Nightwish. And I wanted to rate them a little bit higher, personally, but I was really into them when they came out with their new lead singer. They came out with some phenomenal music, and I saw them in San Diego at a House of Blues. So it wasn't a huge theater. Once again, it's
Right.
probably hold 4,000, 5,000 people. But this band brought their full stage performance, as small as it was, this is on that stage, to that auditorium, and they could have, this is a band that here is very small with a fairly small fan base. You put them in overseas in Europe, and they're a huge fan base. You know, they play in the Walking Festival or whatever like that, where tens of thousands of people are there. But it didn't matter. These guys performed their whole heart, whole show right there in front of 3,000, 4,000 San Diegans. And once again, I got to take Anthony to that one too, because he was a Nightwish fan. And I had a great show there. So they would be my number five. My number four would be Def Leppard Hysteria Tour. I love Leopard, and what a great concert, what a great show. I mean, just the stage presence. That was one of those auditorium things that where the Lloyd Noble Center, where the whole arena was just lit up. They had that big center stage with the four sides and the walls and everything. So that was an amazing show. I love that one. Number three for me would be Garth Brooks. Um, People who go to Garth Brooks concerts know. Sometimes sometimes I think Garth tries a little too hard, but he is there for the fans, and his show is 100% fan driven, and
Yeah.
he is there to give them every ounce, whether he's sick or not feeling good or hurt or whatever. He is Mr. I love being where I'm at, and I couldn't be more grateful for you folks being here too. And
Yeah.
for me, he was great. And I've seen him twice, I do believe. So that was fantastic. Um, my second favorite concert was Cinderella Long Cold Winter. And I can't remember if did you go to that one
No.
in Oklahoma City?
No.
That was a concert experience for us because we got there a little before the show started, probably an hour before the show started to get parking and such as that. And we walk out of the parking garage there across from the auditorium, and Jeff LaBar, Cinderella's guitarist, comes walking out of the parking garage right in front of us, turns on the sidewalk. He's like 3 steps ahead of us. I mean, he literally just, as we're walking out, he comes walking out this little side door, and there's Jeff LaBar. And we're all like, that's Jeff LaBar. And he's walking down the sidewalk, and now he has a pack of, 4 or 5 of us following him down the sidewalk, which I can only imagine when he'd like, oh, this sucks. you know? And we follow him downtown. It's downtown Oklahoma City. We follow him downtown to a local bar. He walks in and he's meeting somebody, obviously friends or whatever, like the people he knows. He's in the bar talking to them before the show. And I'm the only one old enough to actually go into the bar, So I go into the bar and order my Coke next to Jeff LaBar. And sweat's pouring down me. At least it feels like it is. And I turn, excuse me, are you Jeff LaBar? And he goes, yes, I am. And I said, will you sign this for me? I had a cocktail nap. Will you sign this for me? And he said, Rock On or Jeff LaBar, Cinderella 88 or whatever it was, and like that's awesome. And then I walk back out front, and my friends are gone. I'm like, where the heck are they? I turn back around, and what happened is one of the concert promoters was looking for Jeff, find them hanging outside the bar, said, "Hey, you guys want to meet a rock star?" And then he sweeps them in behind me after I'm walking out. They walk
Oh,
in behind me, and they all got to meet him too, which is pretty cool. Which I'm sure he hated, but whatever. And then we went to the concert, and it was the Bullet Boys opened for Winger, who opened for Cinderella. So it's the Bullet Boys, Winger, Cinderella triple concert, which was amazing, an amazing show. And now that since Cinderella's, this is their big album, this is Long Cold Winter, so this is a lot of production, a lot of promotion behind it. Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone was their big single at the time, and Tom Kiefer's playing the keyboards on the piano, and you can hear him playing the keyboards. You're not sure where it's coming from, and all of a sudden he's being lowered out of the ceiling on this baby grand piano that he's playing. And Long Cold Winter, they come out do Long Cold Winter after a drum break or whatever. After the drum solo, the band comes out to do Long Cold Winter, and it starts snowing inside the arena. You
wow.
know, from to set up the mood for it, which was amazing, that they did this. And then at the end of the Cinderella performance, for the encore, all three bands came out and did the encore, which was
Wow.
awesome. So then we leave the theater, and and it's I forgot the name of the theater down the auditorium downtown, the big one down in Oklahoma City.
It,
Um,
well, it used to be the Marriott.
yes, yes. So it still was then, and back then you had the floor section, and then the railing that separated. And as long as you saw a friend that was down on the floor, they would meet you at the railing, give you their floor seats, and then you'd sneak down on the floor. So we had snuck down on the floor, and so we're on the fifth row, which was amazing to see. One of my local guitar heroes, Red Beach, is standing right in front of me playing his guitar. It was fantastic, and there's probably 20 seats in a row, and there's 50 kids jammed in those 20 seats
Yeah.
somehow. But with this amazing show, so we leave. Um, One of the girls gets to go backstage and meet some of the bands, some of the members of Cinderella and stuff. She got Fred Corey's autograph and things like that. And then we, got back in the car, and it was just this amazing experience. And as we're driving back to Shawnee, going down the highway, Cinderella's bus is right behind us, and Tom Kiefer is standing in the front of his bus. They're heading to Tulsa. We're heading, down the. So they hit the 44. But as Tom Kiefer's leaning forward, we're all like waving at him out the back window. He shoots us a peace sign as he takes off, and it was like the perfect ending. They couldn't have been better.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was my second favorite concert experience, and one of probably it was number one until I saw the Cult live, and the Cult reimagined how I enjoyed going to concerts because it was a small show for them in San Diego. This was 12 years ago, so it's way off their peak
Sure.
sound and popularity.
I would love to see
Um,
them. Mm.
and they were, and I was just a passive, like you talked about. I was a passive Cult fan. I had one of their albums. I had Sonic Temple, which I mean everybody has Sonic Temple, I think. So I liked a lot of their music, but they came out and they made me an adherent. I dove into that catalog, pulled out all the songs I loved, and they talk about a band with a tremendous width and breadth of talent. Just the music artistry is one thing, but they covered a lot of topics and conversations, a lot of imagery, and they put on one hell of a concert. They put on the best concert I've ever seen.
Awesome.
Um, and it's funny because of those bands. Um, if I had a sixth pick, if I were to go back and actually do a sixth pick, we had a chance to see Deep Purple, the Scorpions, and Ronnie James Dio, you
Wow.
know, in San Diego. And that was, right before we lost Ronnie, just a few years before we lost Ronnie. But that was, I mean, you couldn't ask for more professional bands to do a show for you anyways, and to have
Right.
these absolute legends.
Yeah.
When Dio is the third act, that's a pretty good concert.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything extra special. The Scorpions outshone everybody. Their sound, I mean, it was a wall of sound coming at you. They sounded just like their albums. It was amazing how they with how they came out there. But they are all amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing that would necessarily push them over the top in any particular regard, except their experience and their love of their craft and their masterfulness, their expertise just showed.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes. How about you?
That would have been heck of a show to see.
That was a
Uh,
lot of fun.
so I've seen this guy. So number 5 in my 5 slot. I've seen him 8 times, and no matter how big the arena or how small it is, it's always an intimate show because he's an incredible storyteller, James Taylor.
Mm.
And his voice. I mean, I saw him as recently as last year, and his voice is like butter still. And what was really super poignant for me, the last one, was he brought his. So he has his son, not Ben, but one of the twins, Henry, come up on stage and sing with him. And Henry is part of his backup because we lost. Oh gosh. Oh, I cannot remember his name, but he was his tenor backup singer, and he was incredible, and I absolutely loved him. And we still have Arnold McCuller with us, but Henry sings in the quartet backup. But he brought him out on stage, and they sang "You Can Close Your Eyes," and it was incredible. But every time I've seen James Taylor, he has been just an incredible performer. He has so much longevity. I mean, and there's a reason why his concerts sell out every single time. I mean,
Right.
because he's an incredible performer. And then
I remember watching a behind the music um, it was for Jim Croce actually, which was an amazing story. One of those
yeah,
people I would love to have seen in a
yeah,
small room, concert. But he's talking about how Jim Croce, Bonnie Raitt, and James Taylor would get together around his breakfast table and write music and jam songs and stuff. I mean, how cool would that have been,
I know.
right?
Would you love to be that fly on the wall?
Exactly.
Yeah. My next one, it's another band that I've seen several times. Seven times. And it's the English Beat.
Mm.
I love them. One of the very first times I saw them, I was fortunate enough to be able to go backstage and meet Dave Wakeling, and a very accommodating gentleman. So awesome to listen to. And we were saying how much we enjoyed the show and stuff, and he's asking out all of our names, and my sister Jeanette was there, and so he launches into the song Jeanette, and it was incredible. It was so, and he just did a little a cappella version of it, and it was awesome. And I again, very intimate venue, and he made it feel just like he was singing to you.
Mm.
And then I mentioned David Byrne. Okay, he's my number 3. Then Steve Perry.
Of course, had to be.
I saw him in Tulsa at the Brady Theater, and that was March 9th on the For the Love of Strange Medicine tour, and it was incredible. The Brady Theater it's not really all that small, but it's not that huge, but he made it feel like he was singing to me.
Sure.
It was
That's
incredible.
awesome.
And then I have to say that my first one, my number 1 slot was Tom Petty.
Really?
Saw him 3 times, and the last time I saw him, he was at the Paycom Center, what's now the Paycom Center. Huge arena, seats 16,000 people, and felt like, and I was up a couple of levels, and it felt like he was just right in front of me. Just because of the way he interacts with the audience and he tells his stories, and he just he's there, and the band is so tight knit. There's a
Mm.
tight band that he just, I mean, he can give, you know, Mike Campbell a look, and Mike Campbell knows exactly what to do. And it's just, and witnessing that, it was incredible. I do have to throw in a sixth one in there too. I want to, Jack White.
Sure.
Jack
White
White
Stripes.
is incredible. And I've seen him perform with the Raconteurs, and now I've seen him on his solo tour. And oh my goodness. I mean, he is so talented. And I mean, and then there's nothing that he touches that doesn't turn to gold. They need to call him the guy with the Midas touch, because I mean, he sang songs from his solo library. And when he was with the Raconteurs, they, you know, did songs from their 3 albums, and just insanely, incredibly talented, just wonderful. And I love how he interacts with the audience and stuff, and he, you know, tells jokes, and you know, and I love a front man who takes the time to introduce his band.
Yeah, me too.
I have not seen that 100% of the time. And out of all of the shows that I have ever seen, I have seen quite a few, and I would say maybe 50% of the time, they take the opportunity to introduce all of the band members. And James Taylor is one that does it 100% of the time.
You know, it's interesting. I was actually listening to this on Eddie Trunk's show the other day, and he's talking about that. Um, he's talking about how artists. He was interviewing George Lynch backstage before a show, whatever like that. And so Eddie said, "Oh, who are you playing with?" You know, because it was George's band Lynch Mob that was there, whatever
Yeah.
like that. And it was George and a lead singer. And George had to stick his head out of the trailer and say, "Hey, who are you playing with tonight?" They just pull musicians in per show, not necessarily traveling with the band. So sometimes these guys do not know who they're actually playing with until that day, you know, which is astounding. So some of this because of the way music has changed for some of these guys. You know, these bands, some of the big arena bands, for example, Vince Neil's band is also part of the Slaughter band. You know, when they get done doing Vince Neil, those musicians will go over to Slaughter and play that show also. You know, it's it's interesting. You know how it's not quite everything that we're used to having. It's funny. We talked about this probably a week ago. I've only been to 2 concerts since COVID. You have far outpaced me that way because I don't want to be in a crowd. I just
Right.
don't, you know. But haven't had a chance to the 2 shows we did see, Seether and Chicago. So 2 completely
Wow.
different separated bands. But I had box seats, so I could, me and my family we were there by ourselves to watch, and that was incredible. 2 great shows. But that being said, I know I feel this. I know Shauna does too. Find ways to support these artists,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Go to the shows. That's where they're making their money at. Go to the
Yeah.
shows. You can afford it. Don't pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars just you think you need to support them. Some of this is getting out of control, and the only way to help control those prices is we
Why
we
not?
we we don't go,
Yeah.
because this has to be regular. They're getting a little out of control, but
Yeah.
just find a way to support these guys and keep. If you had some favorite experiences, please comment on them. Those
Yeah.
who watch the show, been watching the show at all, you want to be on the show, friends and loved ones, please let us know. We'd love to have you on here too. But after almost an hour, we should probably be wrapping this up. Do you have any final words there, young lady?
I really don't. Just keep rocking.
Keep That's it. Keep rocking, folks. Until next time, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.
Bye.